I'm gonna tell you something. I'm Star-Lord. I formed the Guardians. Met a girl, fell in love. That girl died, but then she came back. Came back a total dick.
Oh, please. He left out some important information, but that is the gist of it.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Oh, you know, that's funny that you say that, because did you realize that our last actual mini Marvel was a double doozy after our Gwen Stacy Part 2 episode?
Oh, it was when we recorded two episodes in one night?
Yeah. It was that long ago.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, because our 50th, which was supposed to be like a regular episode, we ended up pivoting and doing that 50 questions episode.
Yes.
So it's been a while since we've had a proper mini Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
oh my
so
gosh,
welcome back, everybody.
Hello. If my voice sounds a little stuffy, it's because it is.
Me too, actually. I have a little tonsil stones going on with me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, fun times.
Oh yeah.
If you've never had those, consider yourself lucky. And it's a little cold here in California too.
Just a little bit. I think my body's like,
yeah.
What are you doing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's like 80.
Spring.
It's 85 degrees one week, and then it's like 65.
Exactly.
Cold.
So that said, welcome to Mini Marvel number 9, where we talk about the broader Marvel universe and the MCU's hottest topics, usually. However, this episode, we're going to deviate from that usual outline and actually devote the entire episode, no spoilers withheld. So this is your warning now. Like, we'll talk about some stuff that's not tremendously spoilerific, but this episode is basically a spoiler-filled episode about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
We are not sorry.
We're not sorry. Officially in theaters as of yesterday, if you're listening to this on the weekend. So yeah, before we get into all of that, just one major thing we need to talk about real quick. Finally, we can talk about.
Yes.
So very happy to announce that some sensational news we have is that we've been invited by the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County to be a guest at their First Fridays event. So this entire season, we've talked about it here and there. The overarching theme is fandoms and fantasy, and each month has tackled a different subgenre of that stuff. And so the last session, which is in June, is all about superheroes. And so they featured a podcast for every month, and we happen to be the one for superheroes.
You heard it here first, baby.
Yeah, so the May session just ended as of yesterday, but yeah, so we're really happy to be a part of their final event of the season. You can get tickets at nhm.org/First Fridays. We'll be sure to post the link. It's pretty cut and dry. You know, it is what it is, and
exciting stuff.
It's an evening event. You've never been to one of these, right, Jeff?
I haven't been to one yet.
They're pretty awesome, to be honest, because
they look incredibly fun.
Yeah,
I've seen some like, social stuff on it, and yeah,
amazing social stuff.
Oh,
right?
Of course, the best, only the best social content I've ever seen in my life.
P.S. It's me. So for those who are not familiar, it's essentially an evening event that takes place the second that the museum closes its regular hours, so 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's got, nightlife like atmosphere. It's got lights outside. There's live music. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 live musical performances from unnamed artists. I don't think they're announced yet, but I could be wrong. We'll know that shortly. as well as a live DJ. There's, cash bars, there's food trucks. It's a lot of fun. And the rest of the museum is still open. So you can actually enjoy all that. And then, of course, stop by the Grand Foyer where the dueling dinos are. Ooh. And you can get some stuff from Golden Apple, which is a store on Melrose. It's a comic book shop. It's an old, I guess you could call it historical LA comic shop, as well as yours truly. A stark contrast will be at the podcast corner. So stop by, say hello.
Woo!
Come chat with us and be on mic if you so desire. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be fun. Tickets are on sale. Hope to see you then. And we have some cool surprises that we're going to show at the event. And should be really good.
I'm super excited for that.
Super stoked. So this is how we know who our real friends are. It shows up.
True. Yeah.
It'll be good. It'll be great. So speaking of this episode, there's no notes. I literally put on this sheet, Guardians of the Galaxy talk. That's it. Who cares about notes? So that's all there's to say.
Very true.
But to wind up to that, I just posted today, the day that we're recording this, I've just posted a reel of the unboxing of the HelloFresh box. Mm-hmm. I had Geoffrey try one of the Zarg Nuts. Zarg Nut bites before the show. It's some good stuff.
It was really good. I can't get over it. I was like,
and he's not even peanut butter. You don't even like peanut butter.
I'm not like a huge fan of peanut butter.
Yeah, and it's got peanut butter, cashews,
even dates. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't really eat dates, but all right.
But imagine that it's got mini chocolate chips, cashews, pretzels, dates, and sweet chili sauce on top of peanut butter.
I tasted a little bit, but I was like, this doesn't.
It doesn't do anything, right?
It's fine,
and in a bad way. And then it's got that like nice little kiss of salt on top.
Yes. Always need some flaky salt.
They put on the little package finishing salt. I was like, wow, that feels fancy. But yeah, if you haven't yet check out the reel and see what the box is all about. It's really cool. Happy to share those recipes too. I think that'd be cool. So yeah, if you're interested, take a look. Now, let's get right into it, I guess, right? So Jeff and I had the delightful experience of not going to the premiere, but scoring tickets for the early access.
Early access IMAX screenings.
Yeah, and so we saw it last Friday ahead of the game. I got I got in line 3 hours early just to make sure we had good seats.
You did.
Yeah.
Dai got there, I believe at around 4.
4 o'clock. Yeah.
I, unfortunately, was still working.
Yeah.
And I was like, well.
Miracle man over here.
And I was like, latest, I was like, I don't know what, I hope I can leave at this time, leave work early. Because I didn't know what time they were going to start letting people in. It could have been 6:15. It could have been 6 o'clock. It could have been 6:30. I didn't want to risk, so I was able to leave my house early. I'll get off work early at around 5 p.m. And mind you, I live about maybe 35, 40 miles away from where we saw it at, down in Orange County. And I was like, well, I hope I make it. Fortunately, I got there in around an hour. I got there around by 6:05, 6:10-ish.
And quite literally 5 or 10 minutes before they started letting people in.
Yeah.
Which is the mind-blowing part too.
Yeah. And I was like, because that line when I got there got long.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I was going to get in eventually, but
you might have had nosebleeders or front row.
And it's an IMAX. And my neck, I already have neck problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so thankfully, I don't know, at the time when they were counting people off, I think I was 35th in line. And then by the time they were starting to let more people in or letting us in, I was 20 something. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. And I assume it was a full theater. So it might've been upward of 500 people total, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Cool. And so we were able to get some fantastic seats and watch the film, of course, written and directed by Mr. James Gunn with music by John Murphy. Where do we even start?
I guess we
Spoiler
could. I guess we. Yeah. This is the start of
Major.
spoilers.
Major.
Spoilers. If you haven't watched
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3,
Yeah.
watch it. Come back to the episode.
Yeah.
And then you can
Yeah.
listen.
Because trust us, you're gonna want to watch it. Like,
Yeah.
Don't listen to this.
Yeah.
Until after, at least.
100%. Final warning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we can say, like, this was like, I think I was telling Dai this at the end after we got out of the movie. I was like, this might be like top 3 like trilogies of the MCU. Like the way that it ends, the send off,
Yeah.
like the closure of everybody's stories.
Yeah.
It's really hard to compete.
Well, and that would well, I'm going to just go ahead and throw it out there. Would that be Captain America, Iron Man, and then Guardians? In that order? Or maybe Captain America,
I was
Guardians?
rethinking about my Captain America, where Captain America ranks. I really was.
And
Because we had brought up Civil War,
yeah, we
but
talked
it's
about
like
this,
I don't think it's a fair comparison because Cap's story doesn't end there.
Yeah.
In Civil War, in Civil War, yes,
Spoon.
the fights between spoons and forks.
Isn't it ironic?
So I don't think it's fair
Yeah.
because we get obviously his closure story
Yeah.
in Endgame.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because neither is Iron Man. It's not a closure story. Like it after Iron Man 3, he still continues.
Yeah.
So Guardians may very well be the first complete trilogy.
Complete.
Yeah.
Up until the very second post-credit scene,
Yes.
which we'll bring it up at the
We'll
end.
talk about it in a bit. Yeah.
But no, I felt this truly feel
yeah.
like it's the end.
Yeah.
Because
for
not
sure.
even, and I don't know what kind of power James Gunn has, but damn, like, because Quantumania obviously doesn't have that feel.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Thor: Love and Thunder
No.
definitely doesn't have that
No,
feel.
not at
'Cause
all.
It went to a 4th movie, but it still doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3,
Yeah.
Cap 3.
Yeah. You knew that there was always going to be something more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
the totality of Guardians is like oof. Truly mind blowing. So let's take it back to the beginning of the film as well as much as we can remember how
Yes.
it goes. So immediately we're reintroduced to the Guardians and they're on Nowhere where we left them from the holiday special.
Yes.
And so they're essentially they've taken the remnants of what happened in Infinity War to the planet, to the galactic, space floating space head.
Yes.
The
Celestial
the
head.
celestial head, yeah. And they're rejuvenating it. They're taking care of the people and making sure that it's working again. I guess.
Yes. Basically just
Yeah.
a functioning society
Functioning, yeah.
for them that they can,
Yeah.
empower.
And I love that almost instantly as well. Like we jump into Rocket and his flashback as a baby. A baby raccoon.
That's what the movie started with.
Yeah. The adorable little baby raccoons like playing together is the opening, I believe is the opening scene. And that kind of treatment is something that James has always done with Rocket. Like he ended volume 2 with Rocket crying. And then
Yes.
now he's opening volume 3 with Rocket as a baby. And of course the high evolutionary, reaching into the cage. So it was reminiscent to me of the last episode of The Last of Us, where when Ellie is born and her mom is holding her and she's crying and she's like emoting in such a way that's like, oh, the kid's a fighter, right? And she's like, yeah, you fucking tell him, Ellie.
Yeah.
And that's that reminded me of when they first show Rocket, because he's the only, like, I don't know if they're called cubs or not, but he's the only raccoon that doesn't back off. He's square off.
Yeah.
He like stares at this looming hand coming in.
Yeah.
And that immediately sets him apart from the rest of his litter. And so I kind of love that. And then that's when they transition to the modern day
Yeah.
raccoon and what he's doing. And how he's really taken like a place with not only Nowhere but the Guardians.
Yes.
Because our dear Peter Quill
Yeah.
is basically a drunkard.
Yeah. He's just like
Yeah.
not in a good place.
Not in a good place. Fighting with Rocket, like very much like the first volume.
Yeah.
When they're in the bar and Rocket's drunk and he's just blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And and Peter was trying to kind of placate him. Now the roles have reversed, and he's playing with his Zune. Takes the Zune,
Yeah.
and then here comes Adam Warlock
Out of nowhere.
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
No,
literally,
preface.
no pun intended, but out of nowhere.
Yeah. Jesus.
I want to say Will Poulter played a really good.
Yeah.
I thought he was like.
think he did a great
There was
job.
times where I was like genuinely afraid. I was like, oh, this guy is not
scary.
holding any punches.
Yeah.
But he's like they said in the movie, he's probably like less than a year old. Like he's still super young, so he doesn't know anything. He doesn't have any moral compass.
Baby Grogu.
Yeah, like there's no
Very
moral
similar.
compass on him. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's like. You told him to show him, what was it?
Yeah.
Like show him you mean business or whatever.
Yeah, oh,
and
yeah.
he just ends up killing
Yeah.
the guy. We're like, everyone's like,
Yeah, exactly.
you need to stop killing people. It's like, I don't know the difference. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's interesting because as we've seen in the Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy game, when they first introduced Adam Warlock too, other than the fact that he's all about alliteration
Yes.
in the game, in the comic books, it is also consistent that when we first meet him, he's got this sort of naivete about him.
Yeah.
And the way that they've kind of introduced this version of the character into the MCU like that,
Yeah.
it makes sense. I could see people being like, "Oh, he's not as powerful as I thought it was," because he's not like an endless killing machine
Yeah.
who is stern and strong-headed and stuff. No, he's got a baby side to him.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know what he's capable of.
He
yet.
was quite literally born yesterday,
Yeah.
So very quickly we're introduced to him, and why he ends up taking Rocket is all part of the bigger picture. It's not only for the
Sovereign's revenge.
Yeah.
It's because the Sovereign
Yeah.
was created by the High Evolutionary.
Yeah. Which is just, and it was so interesting because I was wondering, like, how were they going to introduce that character, right? Because without getting too dense and too far in the weeds, with that character and the lore, and I think James did a really great job.
He was daunting.
Oh yeah,
I don't
he was
want to
terrifying.
pronounce the actor's name
I know, I'm
wrong because
looking
he's
at-
amazing.
Yeah.
But he was daunting. That was a legit.
Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yes,
Chuck. They call him Chuck.
he was legit.
Fantastic.
Like I was legitimately like scared.
Yeah. And he was he was the guy in Peacemaker as well,
Yes.
right? Yeah, he's fantastic in
Yeah, I
Peacemaker.
think that's why.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't remember if it was Suicide Squad or Peacemaker, but he terrified me in Peacemaker too. Once you find out, like, oh, he's actually one of these alien things, or he's possessed by one of these aliens. He was quite terrifying. So
Very.
when James had been teasing, like, oh, Chuck's going to be in Volume 3 I think even then he was like, as a minor role. It's like, you
That's
liar.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and but yet only to reveal that he's the High Evolutionary is incredible, and I think they picked a great person to play him, and I think they explained his character very well. I think it is what it is. We've talked about this on the show too.
They explain his purpose, what
Yeah.
he wants to do, why
Yeah.
he wants to do it, and you immediately either hate him or you're
Yeah.
like, well, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
evolution on crack.
Shout outs Nico Santos for also being one of his
Oh yeah, that's right.
like left hand, right hand.
His main,
Yeah.
right? His main, like, left hand, right hand.
That was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But yeah, he's terrifying. So basically, all encompassing what we've said in the last 5 minutes, Warlock invades nowhere because he is there to capture Rocket on behalf of the Sovereign, on behalf of the High Evolutionary, because we find out
Yeah.
Rocket was one of the High Evolutionary's
Experiments,
testing
yeah.
experiments, and they cut throughout the movie. They cut flashback and present day
Mm-hmm.
of when they ran the experiment on Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
He turned into this just genius, basically.
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
immediately, like an
Yeah.
immediate like genius.
Yeah.
And so Rocket escapes, as we see, and High Evolutionary has literally been on a mission to get him back because High Evolutionary wants Rocket's brain.
Yeah, because he was able to unlock things that even a team of at least 3 or 4
Scientists,
including the High Evolutionary himself,
like,
could not figure out, and that yet this little trash panda was able to figure it out. And I love his little voice.
that was killing me when he was explaining like what was wrong with that first and like I was like, who's voicing this? Why am I like gonna like
it's totally
cry?
Bradley. You can tell it's Bradley. You can tell it's him.
Is it really?
If you can
even
really
like when he
tell.
was younger?
The inflections are there, yeah. And so I think
No way.
Oh yeah, and you know, like Vin Diesel has always
I don't
been
believe
adamant.
that.
No, 100%.
I don't want to believe that.
Vin Diesel has always been really adamant that he does Baby Groot too, without anything changing his voice. And I was like, I don't know about that. I think they do, but for Bradley Cooper, I think it's definitely him. But they did use a voice changer to kind of make him sound like a baby. But the fact that he's like, oh yeah, parallaxing of the steam is broken, and
yeah, I was like, who is this? Like, this is
so
insane.
Cute. He's adorable.
And then going back to the flashbacks, we see like
oh dang, I lost that war. So here we go.
Confirmation. You did a quick search?
Yeah, I did. So Sean Gunn once again provided the on-set motion capture for the character while also voicing young Rocket.
Really?
Cooper also voiced adolescent Rocket.
Okay, adolescent Rocket.
While Noah Raskin voiced baby Rocket. So there's 3.
3.
So that's so funny. So adolescent, he's the teen one. So Cooper is the one doing that part.
Wow.
And doing the chalkboard part, whereas a baby was doing the baby version, and then Sean Gunn was doing the younger Rocket.
So Bradley did the the sky?
Yeah.
That's the
Rocket.
Rock. I was like, oh my God.
I think I immediately started
like,
crying.
Crap.
I started crying. I was like, oh no.
And then in these flashbacks, you see the friendship developed between Rocket, Lila, Teefs.
Teefs? Is it Teefs?
Teefs.
Oh, it might have been
Teefs.
Teefs.
And Floor.
Yeah.
And we know, I can't remember all of the actors off the top, except we know that Linda Cardellini plays Lila.
Yeah, and then it's Chaudhry. Oh, Asim Chaudhry.
Yes.
Voices Teefs the Walrus.
Yes.
And then Michaela Hoover voices Floor the Rabbit, who of course, for people who remember Volume 1, she was one of the Nova Corps girls with the tablet. And she pops up in a lot of James's movies because they're friends in real life. But I can't remember if she was in Volume 2. She might have, I don't know, she might have been a bot or something. But yeah, so she made a return.
I want to say like the development of that friendship of those 4 throughout the whole movie, and it was only being done through the flashbacks, obviously.
Yeah.
I thought it was just grown so well. I was so like, good. I am loving and investing in these characters. Just one, their voices are just so like, how can you not love them? Especially Floor.
Oh my God.
Killed me.
When James announced who was voicing everybody, and then he said Linda was Lila. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, because I love Linda Cardellini as a rule, and her voice is like fantastic.
Her voice as Lila was gosh. I felt the like, what's the word? I felt like the gentleness of it. Yeah. I felt the empathetic of it. And I was like, the empathy of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, these 4. Yeah. These. Yeah. Just, I lost it.
I know.
And so, spoiler alert, as Rocket was escaping,
figured out how to escape,
by the way, as an adolescent, a young adolescent, and his 3 friends die. Yeah. That broke me. And I was like, oh, this is one of those moments right now. I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's the crazy thing, right? Because I didn't even think that was going to happen. I didn't see that at all. I just thought that they were all going to have to get pushed back into the cage and then they would exterminate them somehow. But the fact that they got caught in the crossfire and then died that way, it's awful, because first Lila gets killed because of High Evolutionary, and then his minions come in and then shoot up the other 2, and then like the fact that he just like turns around and they're just like Floor was like collapsed in her little chair thing, and then Teeves is just like,
yeah. And
so sad.
And then Rocket just screaming. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
And then suddenly, of course, and it pulls it all together because you're like, at least for me, when they're showing the flashbacks and they show that Chuck is like pretty much normal, right? He looks like a normal human being. And then, in
present day.
Yeah. Versus present day where he's clearly got his face like tightened up and you're just like, how did that happen? To me, I thought it was like, is that an evolutionary choice of some sort?
Maybe. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
But then they explain to you very clearly, like, oh no, he had to get that done because Rocket jacked him up.
His face looked insane, probably.
Which is fantastic. Yeah. And
oh God, I'll get into this. That's gross.
And this is another thing where it's comparable to Kang, right? It's like, how do you take a comic book character that has a very, very specific look? Like in Kang's case, he's purple and he's like blue or green, and depending on what day it is, and it's very much his skin, and he's got this helmet thing, and it's like, how do you make that look realistic? And I think, like at least at this stage, they did an incredible job with the High Evolutionary in particular because it looks so organic, like in every way of the word. And, they were able to flawlessly kind of pay homage to how he looks in the comics and then bump it up to what makes sense for the MCU, especially when it comes to Rocket and that whole incident. Which was, incredibly visceral. Yeah. It's just like what a wild, scenario for that little raccoon to have to go through and then thankfully get out of.
I mean, we've been talking about Rocket a lot actually right now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the core, obviously that's the core of the movie, is saving Rocket. Mm-hmm. And so to do that, you need to figure out his background and his story and,
Yeah. Which of course, to backtrack is like, it's an interesting way that they even like how they introduce that. Cause like, okay, so Warlock crashed and he failed to retrieve him, whatever. They get him back and then they try to use the med pack on him and then it fritzes. Yeah, it fails because of his mechanisms. And then he's got a kill switch on because of the High Evolutionary. And so then the fact that the Guardians were able to realize, okay, we need to unlock this, like quite literally, from inside, they have to unlock his system to allow him to not have the kill switch thing. And so like, I thought the way that they introduced that whole arc and then involving the Sovereign and what part they play in all of that,
just interlinking stories.
Yeah, because it was absolutely easy to derail. Like they had multiple opportunities to completely derail the film, and I think Gunn was able to really play it out very smoothly.
I agree.
Yeah,
like the writing of it was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Even getting like figuring stuff out about the other like the other Guardians too. Yeah. Like we got more backstory, like emotional backstory on like Mantis, on Drax, and even Gamora, who's not Gamora, but she's Gamora.
Being reintroduced to her, it was very interesting.
Yeah, like she's the leader of the Ravagers, and like and she's just a totally different,
incredibly. She's a completely different,
totally
character.
different Gamora. Like Peter is trying to like hey, like we used to, and she's like, whoever that was, I'm not her. So stop.
Yeah. And as badly as I, of course, wanted that back, I thought it paid so much more. It played such a bigger part not having them come back together.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be, even though it's a perfect ending, it didn't have to be a happy one.
Yeah.
In so many ways, right? Like it made sense for those two very specific characters in that point in their lives. And I think he did a great job by doing that, because anybody else,
they would have brought him back together.
They would have brought him back together. Yeah. She would have given him a chance. She would have stayed. She wouldn't have, sacrificed her family. Because of course that's the overarching theme of Guardians, right?
Yeah.
And James has always emphasized that it's about the family. It's about the chosen family that they have become. And so I love that at least for me, I caught on very quickly that he's like, he's setting the tone that she's like a Ravager. She's chosen to be a Ravager. No different than Gamora, the other Gamora.
Yeah.
Chose to be a Guardian. And so to take that away from her just for the sake of Peter Quill, because
It wouldn't
let's
be
face
like
it,
her. Yeah.
he does have a gaping hole in his soul that he needs to fill that isn't Gamora shaped necessarily. It's just a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
That it's childhood trauma basically. And so it did them a great service for both characters to do what he did. And I like really appreciate that. I think people are constantly asking me and I'm like, why are you asking me? I don't want to tell you. And they're like, did you love it? And I was like, yeah. I loved it. And they're like, is it like everything you wanted and more? I was like, no, it's awful. And they're like, what? And I'm like,
It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
Because I can't tell anybody. I can't tell somebody like, oh, it was really great, Gamora and Peter. Like, no, because none of that happens. It's not a happy ending, but it's the perfect one.
Yeah.
And so, I really, as much as I love and adored and learn to adore the original Gamora, I do appreciate this one for what she is, but she couldn't feel more separate. Like they're drawing the line very clear. Like this is not the same girl. It's not the same girl.
Yes.
Period. And how Peter copes with that is painful.
Yeah.
It's just painful.
And then like just tailing on like backstories of the Guardians. I love Mantis and Drax like backstory, like from the beginning of their story to how it ends in the movie, where Mantis, she's kind of been quote unquote punching bag of the Guardians, you know, like because she's an empath, right? Yep. And so she's easy to yell at, but she has this like not just naive nature to her, but at the end of the day, she still has a good heart. She looks out for other people. She cares about other people. And so I love that like she's able to stand up to Nebula. Yeah. And even when Nebula's, because Nebula's scary and mean, obviously. And so the fact that, you know, Mantis was able to stand up to her and be like, look, you do this all the time. What about, you ever thought about how we feel? Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then I love Drax too. Backstory. Yeah. So basically at the end, like towards the end, like Mantis, you know, at the end, she's like she's come to realization too. She was like, I lived my life whatever Ego wanted me to do, lived my life with whatever the Guardians wanted to do. But I think it's time for me to find out what I want to do. And I'm like, yes, queen, do it.
Well, yeah, because, you know, the entirety of her presence in the films has, it's been exactly that. She's just like sort of this innocent little, almost harmless guardian. Yes. That Drax has more or less become like a father figure to in a lot of ways. And he looks over her and sure, they punch each other with jokes and it's all haha and funny games and stuff. But you know, at the end of the day, like, yeah, she's as an empath, she's very absorbent of her surroundings. And so she does understand how Drax feels when Nebula is the way Nebula is and the way Nebula can be and just how the Guardians treat each other in general. Yeah. Very, very much so. And I think because of that, she feels everything 1,000 times more, right? Of course, because of her powers too. And so for her to finally build up over not only the course of the film, but like the course of her time since she's made her debut in Volume 2, it's been an interesting growth process because she really made some jumps in Volume 3, but they still feel like normal, like they don't feel forced at all. Like it does feel right for her. And I am glad that at the end, like, she really does kind of cut the cord. Like the fact that Drax was so willing, like, I will come with you because you need someone to protect you. And she's like, no. And she's able to identify like, no, we can't do that. That's the whole problem. Yeah. And as much as it pains her, you know, as much like very similarly to Peter and Gamora, like as much as it pains her, she still is able to walk away. Yeah. With the three Orloni or what is it, Orloni? Orloni? Yeah, they're the Orlonis, I think. the big giant space creatures.
Yes.
Oh wait, no, they're not Orloni. What are they called? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hate myself for not remembering this.
I forget, but they eat batteries.
Yes, they do. God, this is gonna kill me now. I have
But
to look it up. Yeah, go ahead.
On the flip side of Mantis, then like going back to Drax, like he was like, "Oh, I'll go with you. You need someone to protect you." That goes to show Drax's character, and then Nebula says this. I think I could be wrong. We can fact check myself on Friday when we see it again.
The obelisk.
Yeah, the obelisk.
Obelisks. Yeah.
And that Drax is not just a destroyer. He would make a great father.
Yeah.
And
You were destined to be a great father.
Yeah,
or
and
something
that
like
was his
Yeah.
role. Like, since he can't go, he's not going with Mantis, so he's staying on Nowhere, and like all those kids that he can connect to that were imprisoned. So I think, I feel like every Guardian got like an amazing like ending, ending that's fitting for them. Nebula was this mean, cruel, dark, second favorite daughter of Thanos, just trying to impress him all the time, and now she's become her own person, and now she's like basically the leader of Nowhere. Like she wants to
take care of the town, as she said.
Yeah, and that's
She's
crazy. I would have
mayor.
never imagined her saying that 2 movies ago.
Yeah, well, because she's always been in the shadow, right? Like no one's actually entrusted her to do anything or treated her like she was competent enough, especially when it came to Thanos, let alone Gamora,
Yeah.
And so now she's really been entrusted by the Guardians and the people of Nowhere. They look up to her in a way that she's never experienced before.
Yeah.
And she handles it like a champ. And she's also powerful enough to like protect them, you know, like that arm, that sick arm that Rocket has made her is like
insane.
T-2000 stuff.
It's like enhanced nanotechnology.
Exactly. And so I wanted to double back a bit, speaking of the children and the High Evolutionary and all that stuff, the Counter Earth that High Evolutionary created, that was basically an Earth planet, but with anthropomorphic animal people.
Yes.
So that was a trip because, of course, this plays into Peter Quill's backstory, which I think has always been kind of like an underlying question, right? Like, why hasn't Peter Quill gone back to Earth? And so I love that they really do kind of dip the toe in with Counter Earth, and he's like tripping out. He's like, what? There's cars, there's like regular, like it's so bizarre and almost like a 70s era of a town.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, also introducing the MCU's first F-bomb.
Yeah.
Which was incredible.
I was like, whoa.
So if you're joining us for First Fridays, if you come up to our table and say, shut the fucking door, we'll give you a prize.
I mean,
from our Coachella Guardians of the Galaxy batch of stuff.
Yell it to our face.
Yell it to our face.
Up.
Yeah. But you have to underscore it with like, oh, also Peter Quill said that, right? Yeah. But yeah, to kind of, and again, it's like James has this wonderful way of seeding things, right? Be it in one film or over a course of films.
Yeah.
He's a very, very authentic, very trademark way of doing that. And so when he started to thread in, okay, this is how Peter's going to react on a like Earth, and this is what they're going to do. And so, of course, all that chaos ensues. And then we see the demise of Aisha, of course. And
I mean, can we go back to the fact of like how cruel the High Evolutionary was? He was just like, do you have the asset?
Yeah.
Or you have Rocket?
Yeah.
Cool, let's go.
Yeah.
And his ship leaves, and his ship was literally holding that planet together.
Yeah.
And then they're like, let's leave. And then everybody just dies.
Everyone dies.
You see the whole planet die.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's so messed up.
oh my God.
Yeah. It's
and
cruel.
then you see Aisha from the Sovereign die.
Yeah.
So
there's no queen now.
So
she's gone.
That affects Warlock.
Yep. Because she was more or less his mother. And so that's really sad too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, he just lost
The
his
High
mother.
Evolutionary does not care.
He does not give up.
In the words of Rocket, he wasn't trying to fix the world.
Yeah.
he just hated how it was.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Counter Earth was wild. That entire sequence I thought was really fantastic too. Like it was kind of like you think you know what's gonna happen. And then I know at one point when Quill and Rocket got off the ship and then Nebula, Mantis, and Drax got on the ship, I literally like went, ah!
I was like, of course.
Of course they do. But then of course they unleash the second, like layer to that, which is all the children.
Imprisoned children.
These imprisoned perfect, quote unquote, perfect evolutionary children that the High Evolutionary has concocted and kept, and all they say is pub pub or jub jub, jub jub, jub jub.
Yeah.
And they speak a very unique language that does not translate. That was one of those loopholes that I thought, I was like, oh, did he leave a loophole there? Because again, the Guardians have these, implanted transmitters that translate everything.
Yeah.
And so for some reason, they don't understand anybody that was on Counter Earth, let alone the Jub Jub kids.
Yes.
But Drax does.
Drax does, of all people.
Drax knows their language and he was able to communicate with them. But yeah, I mean, maybe we attribute that to his fatherly instincts.
Exactly.
But it's really adorable and fantastic. And so Kai Zen is the main kid. And I thought she did a fantastic job. And she's the one that's named, I think she's Phyla.
Yes.
Which I texted Jeff this the other night. I was like, so Phyla is also Phyla Vell from the Captain Marvel, universe of characters, and Phyla Vell is the daughter of Mar-Vell.
Oh.
And so that's the original Captain Marvel, aka Annette Bening's character. And I was like, that's kind of a reach.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a reach.
Little bit.
I don't think they're the same character, but still very cool. And then of course, like Kraglin. We haven't talked about Kraglin at all.
We haven't, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting for him too, because I think, when did he implant the Mohawk?
End of volume 2.
Was it the end of volume?
Yeah.
But did he implant it or was he just wearing it? Because I feel like he didn't implant it until later, but maybe I'm
No, he
wrong.
was.
Was it full on in?
Because at the end, I think one of the post-credit scenes in volume 2, he was trying to get
he was
the hang.
doing the thing, but I mean, like, was it like full on in his like skin?
I think so, yeah.
Ooh, holy moly.
Think so.
We definitely see a little more of that in this volume. And he's still struggling to be as good as Yondu, which, by the way,
Surprise Yondu.
Surprise, Yondu cameo, which, again, James Gunn speaks in technical lies, right? Like, he's like, oh no, I'm never bringing Yondu back. He's dead. He's never going to be.
Technically is.
But he is dead. He didn't bring him back at all. He was just a ghost, a figment of Kraglin's consciousness.
It was really... It's in your heart, boy.
I know. Oh my God. It was pretty perfect, actually.
It was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice climactic moment for the character because, he had been struggling also throughout the film. And he kind of took a back seat for the most part, which I feel like is pretty consistent across all volumes and all the films he's been in. He's there, but he's not there as prominently as the other characters, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, he's also Rocket. So it's kind of like you don't want to work the man too hard.
And then,
But yeah, I think he ended on a very good note as well.
So he did too. Like, he figured it out. He figured out the arrow.
Yeah.
Like, he's a guardian.
After stabbing Nebula in the heart.
Yeah, that was funny.
I was like, oh my God.
And then other notable cameos, we actually have Nathan Fillion as one of the guards on that Ogretech planet.
Yeah, because of course, initially Master Karja,
yes,
the Orgo Sentry.
Orgo Sentry, yes.
He was supposed to be in volume 2.
Yes.
And he ended up on a movie poster in a flash of like, when Ego's
yeah.
like he's on that, but that was it. So he finally got redemption as a full-fledged character. And those Orgo sentries were pretty, that entire sequence is pretty funny. But the system override was pretty genius. Peter Quill using his very characteristic moves on the gals to get his way.
Yeah.
Played by the rat catcher.
Daniela Melchior.
Yeah. Melchior.
Melchior, yeah.
As Ura. She was fantastic too. I really liked her.
Yes.
I forgot how much I loved her in Suicide Squad. So
Yes.
I was like, wait, that's Daniela. I thought that all those cameos were really fun. And then let's see who
There's
else.
James Gunn's wife,
Yeah,
Jennifer Holland. Played one of the workers there.
Yeah.
She I will say this. When she got shot in the leg accidentally,
Oh my god,
her scream,
it was so authentic.
I was like, wow.
I thought she really got
I
shot.
was like just like
Yeah.
this like it's a proper reaction to getting accidentally shot.
Yeah, 100%.
And I was, oh no, it wasn't accidentally, but Gamora like purposely shot her in the leg.
Yeah.
And then, but like to her surprise of getting shot was the most genuine thing I've ever seen. Getting shot.
It was kind of
like there was like a
amazing.
second delay.
Yeah.
And then she's like, ah!
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
It was incredible. I was like, God, she was fantastic.
I was like, wow,
Yeah,
she is an actor.
She
I
really
love that.
brought it. Yeah, she really brought it. And I almost said blurp because I wanted to bring up blurp.
The blurb.
The little blurp guy. He's a sweetie pie. So Adam Warlock's little pet that he accidentally killed the owner of. The poor Ravager. Yeah, a little blurp is a sweetie pie. That'll be cool to maybe see a little more of that character somewhere in the ether. Oh my gosh, who else do we? Oh, you know what? Big one, Cosmo. The space dog.
Yes, Cosmo. This played by
So cute.
I know
You know her name, right?
Maria Baklova.
Yes.
I loved
Oh my
Cosmo.
god, she was so good. She was a good dog.
Oh my God, that
The
running
whole-
joke.
Genius.
The fact that like
Oh my gosh.
it bothered Cosmo the whole movie.
And that's the funny thing, right? It's like one of those things that you're like, you know what? It probably does bother dogs. Like
Yeah.
when they hear it, they're probably like, "Oh, I'm a bad dog.
It's like,
I
what?
don't want to be a bad
Like,
dog."
Can you just tell him? To
Tell him
and they're
I'm not
like
a
they're
bad
like
dog.
Craglin, just tell him he's a good dog. Like
Well, I would.
no, I don't tell bad dogs that. And you're like no, take it back. And I'm like, oh, this is hilarious.
So cute.
Yeah.
Like her voice was perfect. And that dog that they used, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
He's a sweetie pie too. And like the beautiful
Powerful. I think people might forget how powerful Cosmo is.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Cosmo is a telepath and a telekinetic, and so traditionally, and I think they also examine this in the Guardians game. He in the game and in the comics, doesn't usually have that transmitter thing. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't translating like it does like
In the movie?
in the film, but he's usually able to telepathically speak to people. And so he has that power as well as the telekinesis, which is essentially moving things with his brain. And so the fact that they displayed how powerful this poor little puppy is, like,
held the ship for that long.
yeah, held the ship, pretty much played Jean Grey in X3, just in this
Yeah.
version, and held the thing together. And then, and the fact that like, I mean, that was another thing I loved. That whole climax was incredible because Mantis like running, they're all helping each other as the Guardians do. And so Mantis like running to Cosmo as she's about to collapse and like, "You're a good dog, you're a strong dog." And she's like, "Strong, I'm strong," or whatever. I was like, oh my God.
And
These
then
freaking
Craglin's
characters.
like, "You are a good dog."
Yeah. And she's like, "I knew it."
She's like, "I knew it. I knew you didn't
So
mean it."
cute. I loved it. Oh my God. Such a great dynamic.
I was telling Dai this in the middle of the scene that was happening. Like, so they say from the end of the movie, they're saving the kids that were in prison, and then Rocket goes and finds where all the animal test subjects are, and that was an emotional moment too. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my God, my people."
Yeah,
Rocket was like,
exactly.
"My people."
Yeah.
And the Guardians come in. They're like, "Rocket, we need to go." And Rocket's like, "We need to save." I was like, "Oh, they're on the ship." And they're like, "No, all of them,
Yeah.
including the animals.
Yeah.
And then it's just like a pause of like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
And then they're just all running out with all the animals. And I was like, yo, I was telling Di, I was like, this is some Noah's Ark stuff right here.
Exactly.
It was insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought they said the higher life force.
I know, because he was like, that guy especially was pulling on like what looked like a giant like space warthog onto the ship,
and then the
onto
monkey
nowhere,
like scratches. You're like,
yeah, it was wild. I mean, and also of course the classic moment, officially that Rocket finally saw the species that he
is.
And
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, they've never called him Raccoon. It's just Rocket.
It gave me Scarlet Witch vibes.
Yeah, it's very similar, right? And so he, of course, again, the way that James seeds things and also the running jokes of things, that this is a joke that stemmed from Volume 1. And I'm not a raccoon, I'm not a trash panda, all these jokes.
There's also a joke where he's like, you're a raccoon. And he's like, a what?
Yeah, exactly. and then I think my favorite bit is from Volume 2 when, he's like, I'm not a raccoon. And he's like, oh, you're a trash panda or whatever he says. And he's like, is that better? And he's like, no, it's worse. So much worse. Yeah, exactly. And so for Rocket to then, in this moment of, heroism, he opens up the cage and he's like, oh, screw this. I'm going to take all the kids. And then looks at that and looks like, what is it? Procyon Loader, which is raccoon.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh. And so, of course, which pays off at the very end, where he says Rocket Raccoon for the first time.
I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I love it.
Nice.
Yeah. So you finally get Rocket Raccoon in the MCU. And I just wanted to touch on some of the smaller cameos. Of course, Sylvester Stallone back as Stakar, Ogard, as well as Michael Rosenbaum as Martin X. There's a few characters that came back from the holiday special as well. Although I don't think that Miley Cyrus came back as her character.
She didn't.
No, I didn't.
But
think
who did? Well, I mean, you have it right in front of you.
Who?
It was Tara Strong.
Oh yeah, Tara Strong. Yeah, exactly.
The movie's a lot of fun, guys.
It's fantastic.
You're gonna laugh. You're gonna cry a lot.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be happy. You're gonna have a sense of nostalgia. I know I did, especially the very ending song gave me so much nostalgia. I was like freaking out in my seat. And then one last Guardian we haven't talked about the ending of was so basically the ending of the movie.
Yeah.
We reached that when we were talking about the saving of the animals and the life forms. Obviously, this is the end of the Guardians trilogy. So at the end of this movie, they actually
disband,
break up, quote unquote, the team, or it's just it's another version of the team.
Yeah.
So this first version of the Guardians is done.
And I would even say this is the second or third. Because the initial 5 from Volume 1.
But they've only added. They've never taken away.
Exactly. They've added. Then
except for
2,
Yondu.
Right, yeah, of course. And then version 2 with Mantis, of course.
Yes.
And Nebula. And then now with Cosmo and Kraglin more full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at the end, they kind of have
and
this...
no Gamora.
They have this, circle. Look at this. Bunch of idiots standing in a circle.
Yep, as usual. Brought it back. They brought it back.
But this time they're disbanding. And like we said earlier, based on Mantis and Drax and Nebula's, like how they are leaving off, I think Peter was the first one to bring up that he needs to step away. And then once Peter decided to step away, Mantis too, I forget their siblings.
Yeah.
Drax.
I love that they don't harp on it too much. Like they did it, they took care of it in the holiday special, got rid of it, and they don't make it a huge part except for when they're picking on each other.
He's your brother.
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
Nebula taking care of the town. And then, but it was Rocket that was like, what? Like who's gonna, guard the galaxy?
Yeah.
And then Peter's like, well, this always has been like a you thing, Captain.
Yep.
And then Rocket's like, oh.
Yep. Well, yeah, and it's like the first time that he doesn't consider himself captain, right? Because that yet again another joke or running theme that James has had throughout the film is that Rocket has always fought to be captain or fought to be like my ship, it's my ship, it's my ship, and here he is finally at the end of this trilogy, and throughout what they've been through over the course of 6 films. And he doesn't even see it right in front of him. Like, hey, no, buddy, you're the captain now. Like, it's you. It's all you. And so he shepherds the new wave of Guardians, which is more or less comprised of Adam Warlock, Cosmo, Phyla, Kraglin, Blurp, even, and of course, Giant King Alpha Groot, which is monstrous version of himself, which is very similar to the comic books.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's gigantic.
Oh, I think another thing speaking of Groot, we forgot to mention.
Yeah.
He doesn't just say,
Yeah, he
am
doesn't
Groot.
say. So, well, that's the thing, right? It leaves it to interpretation.
Yeah.
Is it us just hearing what they hear for once, or does he factually say, "I love you guys"?
I've never heard something so jarring in my life.
It's like, what
where I was
the
like,
hell?
literally the whole crowd audibly was like
screamed.
like audibly gasped.
Yeah.
We were like,
Yeah.
what?
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, we'll get to those new Guardians, but then we have Quill, his decision to
return.
leave the Guardians and return to Earth and find his grandpa.
Which honestly, like that is something I didn't realize I was waiting for so long.
Yeah.
I'd always felt like he would never go back because he said it himself. He's like, why would I ever want to go back? That's where my mom died.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, but you do have family there. Like, and so for them to really tie it back and bring him back home to that very place, and the fact that his grandfather was still alive.
Yes.
I think
that was the more surprising thing for me, that he was alive.
He was still alive. Yeah.
But I'm glad that he is. Yeah.
Very sweet.
It was just, for me, when I saw that, and like Quill walking Earth, I was like, whoa, this is something I didn't know I wanted to see. And we'll probably, I was going to eat my words in a bit. I was like, we probably won't see that. But
Yeah.
the very last post-credit scene, we see Star-Lord, or we see Quill and his grandpa just having breakfast at the table.
I know, it's so weird seeing Peter Quill in like sneakers.
Yeah, it's just,
And
you
a
know,
t-shirt.
a regular morning, you know. And then the screen goes white and it says the legendary Star-Lord
Yes.
will return.
So
and everyone was
crazy.
like, ooh,
Yeah,
what?
dude. Someone got a solo film. Or
Like,
series. I
something.
don't know. He got a solo though. That's
Yeah.
that's 100%. That's what that cover is from. That's from the legendary Star-Lord. So
Oh,
yeah.
That's
so
the name
I
of the
just
comic.
Yeah, I just pointed
Okay.
to my comic book cover from Chris Anka, and yeah, that's number 2. But yeah, that's that comic book. And so the legendary Star-Lord, of course, in the MCU sense, has always been Peter Quill's like alias, right? Like every time you see it on screen or something, even in the volume 2 like promotional materials, it was always tagged as the legendary outlaw. And so the fact that they would just actually do that and kind of put the legendary Star-Lord now will return is kind of that's a big deal, dude, because it very much means it's not just Star-Lord will return, it's the legendary Star-Lord will return. And so there's a lot of meaning behind those exact words. So I think that they're gonna do either a full-fledged film or a full-fledged series that's just about Peter Quill, and maybe he's still on Earth, maybe it's the Earth then catapulting him back to space somehow.
yeah, I'm interested how
Yeah.
they approach it, because I was telling Dai, I was like, that's interesting because I don't see anyone else. I personally wouldn't want anyone else touching Peter Quill / Star-Lord unless it was James Gunn.
Yeah.
Like, that's just my opinion.
No, for sure. And I think Pratt has been very vocal that, as long as it was either the Russos or Gunn, he would be 100% down for anything. So the fact that he's willing to do something else
unless
not.
It's either unless one of the situations where you find a director that maybe the studio and Pratt can trust.
Yep.
And then you have Gunn EP it. Mm-hmm. But that's also really tough because like James is like as of after this Friday when the movie comes out.
Yep.
He's full on DC mode, at least for the next 5 years.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. That's just me. How they go about it. That means someone agreed to it.
Yeah.
You know, Pratt agreed to it. James gave the okay.
I'm so intrigued. And I think that they'll release more about it eventually because officially crowds are finding out. And so by the end of Thursday, if not Friday itself, it's going to be everywhere. And so people are going to be asking. And so now I'm going back and watching the interviews. And so when people are like, so, or, you know, like, does this really mean the end for you? Is this the end for you as Peter Quill? And he's like, you know, well, I'm definitely open to exploring more. And it's like, you tricky little fox. He knows what he's doing. He knew, you know, because he already knows.
Chris Pratt is killing it this year.
He's killing it. He's constantly winning as far as, you know, his entertainment goes. So, but yeah, you know, like, so, you know, that's the next stop for Star-Lord, what it is and who it entails and all that.
We'll never know.
It is truly, he can be
anything.
It's endless. Yeah. It could be anything. We have no idea. But I want to see that suit. I want to see that would be cool. It's blue and white, but I want to see it. Yeah.
But yeah, excited for that. Yeah. I was surprised to see that. I was like, oh, nice. Mm-hmm.
Definitely didn't expect it. I didn't
expect that either.
It was a very happy surprise for me.
And then back to the new Guardians, which I was also saying, I don't know if we'll ever see them again because obviously they said like, obviously this is a different iteration of Guardians. Yeah. So who knows if we'll ever see that iteration again on screen? Like we said, it was Groot, Kraglin, Cosmo, Rocket, Adam Warlock, and Phyla.
And Blurp.
And yes. That just seeing them all on screen together in that mid-credit scene, I was like, ooh, this looks, especially Adam Warlock. Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever see him again. Yeah. I'm sure we will because he's too powerful of a character to like not get, but like I said,
because they could easily tie him into Celestials and Eternal stuff. Easily.
But like now, like with all these movies coming out, it's very, very hard for everybody that you want to explore every single character that is, you know, like presented on screen. Like Warlock is definitely one of those people where you're like, we need to see him because he is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And well, that's the wild thing, right? Because the jewel that is imprinted on his forehead in the comics, that used to be the Soul Stone. Oh. So that was a big deal. And so like one of my hard like theories when Infinity War had come out, I was like, what if an Endgame, like it's Adam Warlock and he comes and he saves Gamora and, you know, like from the soul world and all this stuff. But of course the gem took a completely different journey in the MCU. And so now it's just some little thing. I don't know if it's a stone, if it's a little fragment of metal, whatever it is. And so, the character has taken on a whole new life in this version of himself. So it's very curious because he as well can anything can happen to this kid. He could be anywhere.
He almost killed Rocket.
He almost killed all of them.
Like that's insane. I thought Drax was. I was like, oh, he's beating the crap out of Drax.
I thought for sure he killed Drax. I thought for sure he was gonna kill him.
So I don't know, like how we will see this new version of Guardians ever on screen. Like I said, with the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars coming up in a couple years, literally anything and anyone can pop up. I hope fans aren't like mad when certain people don't pop up. Like there's so many characters. Yeah. Like even I'm like, holy crap. Even in Guardians 3, it's like, oh my God, there's a lot of characters.
A lot of people.
But everyone got equal screen time, I think. And like
nobody felt shorted.
Yeah. But oh my gosh, you know, with the High Evolutionary, with Cosmo and Kraglin and Rocket, man, like everybody, Warlock, the Sovereign, the Ogre Tech, planet. Yeah, but this movie, it really. the part where I cried the most.
Yeah.
Was when Rocket was about to die,
Yeah, for sure.
and he was like, "I'm ready to. Can I
Oh,
join?"
I know. And so he like very quickly, he sees Lila.
And Teefs and
And
Floor.
yeah.
He was like, "Can I join?"
And
you
I
guys?
knew that was going to happen. I was like, oh no, please don't do it. Please don't do it. Please do it. He's like, I think I'm ready to go now. And then she's like, okay. And then she's like, but not yet.
She's like, "Stop."
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
You still have purpose left.
And I was like,
It's like one of those moments that is a very commonly used trope as far as like the between of life and death goes, right? Like the white light and all that good stuff, and seeing that one loved one and then seeing the other loved ones and how badly he wants to just be free, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the very clever thing that they have done with the marketing for this film is that they kept pushing it like, oh, let's just take one more, what is it? We all go into the sky together, right?
We'll go into the sky.
Yeah.
Into the forever.
Right. And so everybody's under the impression that he means the Guardians. It's like, no, he means his original family and how their fate panned out and how he almost just like goes for it because he's like, you know what? Yeah, that's where I belong. And it's like, well, not quite
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Finally got the scene where in the trailer, like when Quill was like
Yeah,
screaming. I was
screaming.
like, who is he
Yeah.
hovering over?
Yeah.
And it was Rocket.
Yeah.
But he was about to die.
Yeah.
I think that's
he
when
was practically dead.
He was apparently, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like that's where I was like starting to lose it. I was like, oh no.
Dude.
I was like,
And also, I mean, not to like discredit, well, one thing is that it's amazing that they've really articulated that they're best friends. That I think that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Because like
And
from
that's
the
my
first
best
film,
friend. We have to say my best friend.
The best friend. And then which is really sweet because it did really start to build up from number 2, right? They had a few problems, but one of the cut scenes at the end was them flying together, with the jetpacks, and that was really sweet. And so of course it's built up over the course of that film and then all the way up to now. And then of course, I was going to say, and Peter Quill's death for the record. Oh my God.
I was like,
So
no.
uncomfortable.
I was like, no.
I genuinely thought he died.
I was like, is this the death that they're
I thought
doing
he
this movie?
died. I thought 100% he died. I was like, oh my God.
And I was like, no one can go to him. No one can
killed
say. I was like,
Star-Lord.
who the fuck?
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was one person who can, but I was like, I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
And it was Warlock.
Didn't even think of him.
Like as soon as I started to see like his face puff up, and I was like, oh.
That's why I was like, he's gone.
I was like, this is it.
yeah.
This is it.
Because that's what happens to you when you die in space. It's really gross.
But he was there out just enough,
Yeah.
and Adam saves him.
With the portrait of Adam, like homage again with
Oh,
the hands.
Yeah.
And which I guess James has done officially twice now. I don't know if he did it in volume 2, but he definitely did it in 1 with the final fight with against Ronan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then now this one, which is really clever and something he loves to do. I genuinely thought he was a goner, and I thought, like going back, of course, like volume 1, going back for his freaking Zune, right? He like the Walkman, but this time it was for the Zune. And then which we come to learn, of course, is because he was getting it for Rocket.
Yes.
Which is like, oh my God. Like one layer after another. They're just like, you hurt? Hold on. We're still going.
And I just think the ending of the movie, like I brought up earlier, just where he plays the Zune across the whole the city, the town.
Yeah.
And it's Florence and the Machine.
Florence and the Machine, yeah.
And it's just like the most perfect book ending song.
Yeah.
Like if that song was played at the end of the movie in the early 2000s, it's like, okay, that's corny and that's typical.
Yeah.
But it plays here at the end of Guardians 3, and I'm like, nostalgia and just pure bliss.
Yeah.
And so
that's the great word for it, is bliss.
Yeah. It's just like, we just almost died and our planet almost just, was gone.
Yeah.
But we're rebuilding, and I'm going to play this song. And yeah, it's just like you leave the theater just feeling very joyful and happy.
Which, by the way, that song came out in 2008.
8.
So it's 15 years old.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah, you slap that song
Yeah.
in any 2010s romantic comedy
Yeah.
or coming
Yeah.
of age story.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, that's corny, that's typical.
Yeah.
But here, it
Yeah.
just ejected like so much, just like serotonin.
Yeah. Yeah. Serotonin.
It was great, and everybody's dancing. Nebula's dancing awkwardly.
She's so good. She's so good. Yeah.
The movie is amazing,
Yeah,
guys.
it's fantastic.
Everyone needs to watch it if you're looking for the best 2.5 hours
Yeah.
of your life.
All the headlines are right. I think it really is like it's a perfect ending for a trilogy.
I think
It's a great MCU film.
Now
like,
that we've talked about it, I
Yeah.
think it is my favorite trilogy.
yeah, for
I
sure.
think it has to be.
I think so too. I think it's certainly, if it like for you or for anybody that isn't me, that isn't 100% Guardians biased, I think if it's not your favorite, you can at least agree it's definitely the strongest because it's very cohesive in every way. Like
Easily.
he didn't leave anything unmentioned, like even to the point where Gamora and Peter are parting ways, like she doesn't leave him completely wounded, right? She's like, oh, you two must have had a lot of fun, huh?
Yeah.
And he's like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And like the fact that that's her breaking point with him, like that's the cutting of the cord with him, and they can just separate. Like it's not like an abrasive, like she's just gonna leave him just to scorn him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they did it in a very good way that, like, of course it hurts, but it's what had to be done.
Yeah.
Perfectly done. And
Agreed.
it was great. And it's a polar opposite from the fights and all the intensity that they've endured throughout the entirety of the film. So the way that James like sent everybody off was like really fantastic. So yeah, it's kind of wild to have like my favorite franchise of the MCU also have such a strong trilogy like that.
I think it's the strongest.
There's like nothing I could have asked for.
The perfect
more.
start and the perfect bookend.
Yeah, 100%. Because like I said, near the top of the show, if they had gotten back together as much as I would have wanted that, I know that doesn't make sense.
It wasn't right.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So bravo to James Gunn.
Yeah.
My God.
Go watch it. Go watch it.
Again.
Run it up. We're watching it
Yep.
again.
Yes, we are at the fan event, and I'm knocking on wood that somebody will show up. Hopefully we'll get somebody.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right.
Is that it?
I think so.
Oh my goodness, y'all. So that's the end of the show. For our next episode, with Guardians, of course, breaking hearts left and right, we will officially embark on one of my favorite characters in recent years, Gamora. Oh my God, finally. I feel
We've
like
been waiting.
I keep feeling like she's the last one, but we haven't even touched half the group yet.
Yeah.
So, with Gamora, like she is more or less her tenure in the films is over, more or less. Like she's done. So this is a great time to actually talk about her and the character and revisit some of her moments in the films. But yeah, dang, that's it.
That's insane.
We'll have Gamora next up, and then so thanks for listening.
Woo!
A We Are Groot salute to Nats, Katie, Sherry, Andrew, Joliz, Ashley, Ed, Jenny the Arachnid, Tyler, Robin, Melanie, Andrea, Claire, Ariel, Eve, and Laura. Follow us on social at STRKCNTRST. If you like what you hear, review, rate, and subscribe. And be sure to drop in and see us at NHM's First Fridays.
Cop your tickets. Visit
In
us.
June.
Say hi.
Yes.
Once again, thanks for listening, and we will catch y'all in the next one.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.
And we'll kill anyone who gets in our way.
No, not kill anyone.
Kill a few people.
Kill no people.
Kill one guy, one stupid guy who no one loves.
Now you're just making it sad.